And hey, everybody, this is Gloria Ward, and I want to welcome you to another self love conversation. And as you know, it is January, and we're talking about Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And we have an amazing woman with us who is also a survivor, Miss Amanda Blackwood, who is going to give us some insight and some awareness about what we need to know and learn about human trafficking and some of the things that she went through. How did she find herself? And some of the things that she's doing today as a survivor. So, Amanda, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So the first thing that I wanted to say before we came live is that I took a look at your website too, and I love your website because it just gives you such a great insight as to the whole idea of human trafficking. But I wanted to open our conversation with this, with what you said on your website. You said, I thank my lucky stars every single day that I am still alive now to tell my story. At the time, all I knew was that I needed to survive. I didn't know just how dangerous my situation actually was or what easily could have happened to me. If you can just take us back to the journey of how all of that transpired and what happened, and just let us know, what was it like? And the only reason why I asked is because we on the outside think one way, right? Like we have this idea of what human trafficking is. But because we have you here, you can really help educate us. So can you take us back to, what happened and how did you end up there?
Absolutely. It's not an easy story, but it's one that I'm becoming more and more accustomed to telling. I'm actually a public speaker on this now. I've written my book about what had happened. But most people think of trafficking as involving children. And while the average age is between the ages of 12 and 14, I was trafficked three different times, three,
Mhm.
and each time was completely unrelated to the previous time.
Wow.
All of these events happened after I had turned 18 years old. So
Hmm.
the first one was when I was 18, the second one when I was 19, and the most difficult one, um, also the most recent one, happened when I was actually 31 years old.
Wow.
This year marks my 10-year anniversary of my escape. Actually, June 19th, the National Day of Freedom, was
Wow.
also my day of freedom. Um, but I was trafficked by somebody that I had known for 7 years. We had an online relationship. We'd met online many years before.
Mhm.
We had known one another for a long time. I watched his little girl grow up in pictures, in video chats. Eventually, this man asked me to marry him. And to marry him, I would have to move, of course. He was living in another country. He lived in Scotland. He was a police officer there. When he got me over there, almost immediately is when the abuse started. He took my passport and my credit card and everything. I wasn't able to get away. And at first, I thought it was just abuse. I didn't realize it was trafficking. I didn't realize he was actually making money off of what he was subjecting me to. I thought I was just there to be his in home entertainment. For 152 days of my life, I was subjected to constant rape, torture, servitude.
Was
I
this
was in
by him or others?
the rape and torture were by others, and he would sit back and watch. Sometimes he would participate.
Amanda, and how old are you at this point?
I am 41 right now. This was
Back
only 10 years
then.
ago.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm listening.
Yeah, so I was 31 years old. And when people are thinking that, this is only happening to kids, what they don't realize is that this is actually happening to people of all ages. There is no age limit to this. If somebody sees a monetary value in somebody else, you can fall victim to this. Um, I'm actually about to go into a meeting here tonight which is why I'm in my car. But this
Right.
meeting is actually with a small group of other survivors here in the state of Colorado. And every single one of them are over the age of 18.
Wow.
Every one of them.
And so you guys met online. He's from Scotland. You move out there. And I was telling another survivor this that we were talking to. You think this is the person that's the love of your life. You
Oh,
think
yeah.
you found that person, right? Like you're compatible, you're looking at his kids, you're excited, and you're saying, "You know what? This is going to be a new adventure for me. I am going to, try something different." And you move out there and then it's totally different.
Yeah. I'd
At
already
that
gone out
point,
to visit him.
yeah, and at that point, what are you saying to yourself when it switched? Like, what were you in shock? Did you understand what was going on? Like, because I would have been terrified, especially because I was in another country.
There was a lot of that. At first, I think I was under the misguided thought that he was telling me the truth when he told me, if you don't like this, you'll never have to do it again, but you have to do it this one time just to prove to me that you love me. There's manipulation tactics that traffickers use. The majority of people who are trafficked by somebody that they know, somebody who's in a position of authority. So that's exactly what this was. He was the love of my life, I thought. Um, I was supposed to be getting married to him, and now he was in a position of authority because he also controlled all of my money, my finances, and my passport. I couldn't leave even when I wanted to. I got there on January 20th of 2011. And by February, I had conned him into giving me back my debit card so that I could purchase an emergency flight home. But because of the rape and torture, I actually developed a pretty severe kidney infection. It got so bad that I wasn't able to stand and walk out. I couldn't carry a bag. I couldn't walk to the train station. There was nothing that I could do at that point. I was so sick, I missed the flight. And what I had spent on that emergency flight home was almost $2,000. It was every penny that I had in my bank account. I went into the negative to be able to buy that ticket, and then I couldn't get out of there anyway.
Amanda, I don't and so this is when you were 31. So when you were
Yeah.
younger in your teenage years, it was also someone you knew? Was it the same kind of concept? A boyfriend, a friend?
The first one was a boyfriend. I the majority of trafficking victims also have experienced childhood abuse and trauma.
Yeah.
So I survived a lot of that in my own household, but I was never trafficked as a young child. So I left, started running away at 15. By the time I was 18, I was out permanently. And I moved in with this guy who was twice my age. He was 38, 39 years old. He basically gave me to his buddy for a birthday trip to Las Vegas. When I got back, um, I was ashamed. I felt like it was my fault. I felt like it was this dirty secret, and I couldn't tell this guy that I was dating, but he already knew.
Right.
He made sure he knew because he was the one who orchestrated it to happen in the first place. So, as he was trying to help somebody else move, I left. I was nearly homeless. I had to rely on the kindness of total strangers to be able to take me in. A year later, I had gotten married to somebody else who was twice my age. Um, got a job on a horse farm, fell out of the hayloft and twisted my knee pretty bad and was supposed to get surgery. I was trying to get away from the man that I had married, who also turned out to be abusive. I hate to speak ill of the dead. He actually just passed away this past November. Um, but I was trying to get away from that marriage. And in order to do that, I was given the opportunity to go get my workers' compensation surgery done in Florida so I
Hmm.
could go down and stay with my dad's mother, my
Right.
grandmother. I'd never spent a whole lot of time with her. I figured it was a great chance to get to know her. Weird things happened on the journey. And I was basically abandoned at a Daytona Beach bus station with nothing but $5 in my pocket and told good luck by my own grandmother. My
No
parents had told her
way.
that, yep, My
No
parents had
way.
told her that if she took me in, they'd never speak to her again.
No way.
So they left me, and I had to depend on the kindness of strangers at 10:30 at night in a Daytona Beach bus station in a state that I wasn't familiar with, in a town that I'd been to when I was 4.
Let me tell you why I'm getting emotional. Okay. Because your story can be any woman's story,
Yeah,
especially when you're looking for love,
yeah,
right? Especially when you decide to trust someone with your heart, with the fact that you have went through stuff in your life and you finally think that this is it.
yeah.
And then it gets worse. And then you have to figure out how you getting out of the situation. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Right.
The first thing that I have to ask you is, where does your strength come from?
This is naturally red. Well, it's like you read on the website. All I did was survive because that was all I knew how to do. The only other alternative for me was to roll over and die, and I
Right.
wasn't ready to die.
Where did
It's
that strength come from? Like, did you know something? Was it always in you when you were little? Because I can still see it. Like, I can still see, like, when just hearing you talk, that even though you went through what you went through, you just have this resilience about you. So has that always been there, or did you have to develop that over time?
I think it's a combination. I think I always had it in me, and I didn't realize it was there
I believe that.
until the times called for it. I
I
was a
believe that.
doormat growing up. I was absolutely a punching bag. My parents will always claim that abuse never happened in our household, but I can't tell you how many times my dad picked me up by my hair. For a long time, I had short hair after that because I didn't want anybody else to be able to pick me up forcibly from the couch by my hair and toss me around the room like a rag doll.
Right.
I didn't like having phones in the house that had cords on them because I didn't want them being whipped at me anymore. Yeah. But I did. I put up with it. There
Hmm.
was a turning point shortly after I turned 15, I guess. I'd been running away from home, which is common for kids that have, suffered abuse. Um, and one night, my parents had taken me to a shrink. You know, I I have a therapist now, and I believe in therapy, and she is amazing. But the first person they ever took me to was absolutely a shrink. Um, this person put me on Klonopin, Paxil, Prozac, and all kinds of other antidepressants and anxiety medication. My goodness, sorry, it's been a
Okay.
long day.
No.
Um, but I knew that I didn't need these things. So I kept flushing them down the toilet every day. The only reason they prescribed this to me was because my mother said, this is what she's doing. You need to give her the medication. So they
Mm.
did. So
Hmm.
one night I was in trouble for something else that I had or had not done. I don't even know. I was sitting there at the table and they were telling me about all the things that they had taken away from me. They had taken away my bed, except for a mattress on the floor. They'd taken away all my blankets, except for a sheet. They'd taken away my books. I had a keyboard piano, a little electric keyboard I used to play all the time. It was the 80s, okay?
Right.
Um, and I loved that thing, but they took that away from me also. They took away my bedroom door. They took away all of my clothes and all of my shoes except for one change of clothes, and I'd have to change into a nightgown at night to wash my clothes so I'd have the same clean clothes to wear to work to school the next day. They'd taken everything away from me. And when they were telling me about what the next punishment was going to be, which was probably, I think, scrubbing out the rolling trash bins with a toothbrush, they asked me what I was thinking. And for the first time in my life, I stood up for myself. I told them, you have taken away everything. You have broken me down. You have stripped me of what you think is my dignity. And with everything that you have taken away from me, you still have not broken my spirit, and you never will. And I got up and I
Hallelujah.
walked away.
I
And
know
I
that's
fully
right.
expected to hear or feel something on the back of my head, and I didn't. I left them sitting there at the dining room table in a stunned silence.
Because they
I had
knew,
no idea.
because they knew
Yeah,
that at that moment,
I won.
that's where you found your strength. At
Yeah,
that moment, and at that moment, that's where you found your voice. And because you found that, you were able to survive, right?
yeah,
And so now, even after all of that, we are a writer, we are a fighter, we are a survivor, an entrepreneur, an artist, an actress. We are all of these things as a result, right?
yep.
And now here we are. And so, what I want to ask you is, with everything that you went through, do you believe that it was meant to happen to get you to this point? Or do you believe that that it was just something that you went through and now you're here? Because I always believe that life never makes mistakes, right?
Right,
We go
right.
through things because we get the opportunity to find out who we really are. Have you found yourself?
I think for all of us, no matter who we are or what stage we are in our lives, we're always trying to figure out who we are right now,
Right.
because we're constantly evolving. That's just the nature of humankind. I
Absolutely.
know who I am in this moment. I know who I was yesterday, but am I going to know who I am tomorrow? It's a good question.
Hmm.
But for having this happen to me, I believe for several reasons that yes, this happened to me for a reason, and it happened to me for a very good reason.
Hmm.
Because I had the fortitude and the strength to survive,
Absolutely.
because I have the gift for writing, because I have the gift for speaking. I can speak out for all those people who didn't survive. Less than 2% of all human trafficking victims ever survive. They are beaten to death, they are drugged, overdosed, or they commit suicide. And that's the end of their voice. That didn't happen to me for a very good reason. And it's because I'm supposed to be here.
Yes.
I have the ability to be able to tell this story. If somebody else had taken my place, if somebody else had landed in Scotland or had been taken in Florida or had that boyfriend that I had when I was 18 years old, they might not have survived.
Absolutely. I believe that. I really do believe that. And now, that you are on this journey, how hard is it for you to find love, or have you found love? Like, how do you trust someone?
My love,
Amanda, for real. Like, how do you trust someone after going through all of that? Because I'm going to be honest, it would be very hard for me.
it is. It's a struggle. My love right now consists of 4 furry cats,
No, that's right.
a roommate that I consider to be my brother,
Yeah.
a best friend that I consider to be my sister,
Yeah.
and a very special friend of mine who is also a survivor, not of human trafficking, but of many, many other brutal, brutal circumstances in his own life.
Gotcha.
And among that small crowd of people, I have finally found somebody that's worth trusting and somebody that's worth loving.
Hmm.
And that's not an easy thing to do. It took me a long time to be able to get there. I self sabotage.
Hmm.
Most people who have a trauma brain do
Absolutely.
this.
Yeah.
And I've been guilty of that too. You
Hmm.
know, I end up in a relationship and then I'll do something stupid to sabotage it because I want to prove to myself that I don't deserve this person or I don't deserve this good thing that's happening to me,
Right.
you know? And I
Hmm.
blame myself for it every time. Yeah, it is my fault, but it's also not.
Right. I understand. And so, is it something that you want? Do you want to find love? Do you want to, rebuild your life in the way in which you do have someone where you are spending the rest of your life, in love and married and on separate couches fighting over the remotes? you know?
I dreamed about it for a long time.
Hmm.
I don't think it's really in the cards for me, unfortunately, but there might be a surprise. Who knows? You know, like I said, who am I going to be tomorrow? Am I going to meet this person that's going to redefine who I am or how I live my life? I have no idea.
I got you.
As of now, I've been married and divorced 3 times. My first ex-husband just recently died. I have a son that doesn't speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got all of this stuff going on in my life. I don't know if I have room for another man's drama.
I got you. No, I feel you. I feel you on that. So tell us about your painting that you showed me, and tell us about your books or anything that you have, so that we
Um,
can support.
okay. So my painting that I have with me, I'm about to bring this inside.
Yeah.
I actually just sold this to a local organization here in Colorado. It's called Covered. I'm wearing their shirt right now. Covered.
Yes.
And I have a graduation ring from them because I graduated their program. But they are a victim advocacy, so they help the young girls with fighting in courts and recovery and therapy and all kinds of amazing stuff. But the reason they wanted to purchase this painting is because they're going to actually turn it into prints, and then they're going to be selling these prints in order to help fund these programs.
Wow.
So super, super cool. They
I
actually just told
love
me
it.
about this a couple of days ago, which is why I brought it in tonight. It's like, yay.
I love
Um,
it.
my books, I have 6 published currently. 5 of them are autobiographical. One is my latest work of fiction, just came out last November. I've got 2 that are being published this year. One of them is going to be the second in the fiction series, but the big one is the one that's being released on the 10-year anniversary of my freedom on June 19th of this year. It's
Yeah.
called Custom Justice.
Mm.
And the reason it's called Custom, it is available for pre-order on Kindle, by the way.
Okay.
But the reason it's called Custom Justice is because it's impossible to prosecute across international borders against somebody who has trafficked somebody else. So I'm not able to get legal justice ever for what happened to me unless I find a way to get a permanent visa to live in Scotland or in the UK in order to then prosecute this man, this police officer who did this to me.
Mm-hmm.
Can't happen.
Yeah.
So I just have to deal with it my own way. And my way of being able to have the justice that I deserve and that I seek is to finally tell my story and to have people understand that this, like you said, can happen to anyone.
Absolutely. Amanda, I appreciate you being here. I really do. And I thank you for, being so candid and opening our eyes to letting us know, that it could be any of us, right?
Yeah.
But people on the outside, we think it's young kids. You worry about, them going to the store, working home from school, or anything like that. But knowing that it could be any one of us allows us to be aware, which is great. And I just strongly believe, and I just see the resilience in you, that I really believe you're going to be okay, and you are going to find love, and your voice is just going to spread across the world, because you know you just never know how many people you're helping, with this industry being $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
When we found that out, I was like, oh my God, we have to be able to use our platform so that survivors like you and organizations will not only educate us, but be that voice, so that we can help spread the message. So I thank you for that. I
And
really
thank
do.
you. Thank you for what you're
Absolutely.
doing.
Absolutely. And so anytime you want to come back, you can. We'll put your information and all of your links inside of our stuff, and just let us know how we can support you. Okay.
Okay. That'd be amazing.
All right. You have a good meeting.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for tonight. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.